Hello everyone, I am Aditi and welcome to Rahul's IS. In this series, we will break down complex legal topics and current affairs in a simple, clear, and exam oriented way. And to begin this journey, in this video, I will discuss the topic of personality rights and anti defection law in detail and some quick important legal updates. Let's start with understanding personality rights. Imagine waking up one day and finding your face, your voice, or even your personality being used online without your permission. A video you never made, a statement you never gave, an advertisement you never approved. And this is exactly where the concept of personality rights becomes one of the most important legal discussions of modern times. So it is something which has become the buzzword today among the celebrities. Let me just break it down simply. Personality rights can be broadly categorized into two types. For example, I have some specific traits as a person. No one should be able to utilize those traits. It's my copyright as to how I speak, certain way I dress, I look. These are things about me which are a part of my personality, kind of my creative creation. Someone must not be allowed to use it for commercial purposes. Not only that, if I'm an artist, there are certain traits that I have, and no one should be able to utilize them commercially without my permission. So, this is the commercial aspect of personality rights. Another aspect is that I do not want some information about my private life out there in the open. For example, I may be a cricketer, but whatever is going on in my married life, what is going on in my household, it's none of your business. I should have the right to stop the people from using my personal information, images. I should have the right to stop the people from making some concocted stories about my personal life so that my privacy is not invaded. So, these are the two aspects of personality rights. The one being commercial, that is right to publicity, and the second related to Article 21, that is right to privacy. Now, if any person will approach the court for personality rights, he is going on what basis? The person can approach regarding infringement under Article 19(1)(a) and 19(1)(g) of the Constitution of India, claiming threat to right to freedom of speech and expression and right to freedom of profession and occupation, and secondly under Article 21 of the Constitution of India relating to right to privacy and liberty as well. Now ideally only that person should approach the court who is under threat, right? However, today almost everyone is approaching the Delhi High Court, and it's an issue. For example, few years back, Anil Kapoor had approached the Delhi High Court and he got protection of personality rights on the word jackass. He said that the way I say that or that particular style is my intellectual property and someone else should not be allowed to use that. So, it is right of an individual to control unauthorized use of their personal attributes like name, image, voice, and distinctive expressions or traits. It is not expressly mentioned in any statute in India. Another issue which is more relevant because of the rise of AI is, in fact, there is a working paper on generative AI and copyright which has been released by Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, and they have asked for suggestions from different stakeholders on how do we balance the rights of creators and the tech companies. See, there are two big players here who are at loggerheads with each other. For example, few days back there was this movie Sayara. So title track of that movie that was taken by a person who used AI and he regenerated that song in Kishore Kumar's voice, and that song actually ended up being more viral instead of the old original song. Now the problem here is what happens to the right of the original content creator? Secondly, you recreated that song using AI. Now what about your intellectual property right? because you claim that you followed a particular process and you gave a particular prompt to AI. It's not that everyone can create that prompt. You can't go and just give input to AI. AI might give you a junk output to it. You have to give the right kind of prompt. So, is that prompt also a part of creativity? And then the third question is, what happens to the tech companies also in this picture? For example, now people are saying that they will sue the tech companies for this. For instance, take any AI company like OpenAI, Gemini, DeepSeek, etc. Ultimately, they are working on any information available. So now let's say it is picking information from some copyrighted material and it gives that to you in a refurbished format and you make something out of it. So again, what about the rights of original copyright owner? And what about the one who refurbished the content using AI? And third, the tech companies who is doing this. Are they the ones who are responsible for the copyright infringement or not? So, if you stop the companies by imposing a blanket ban, then the innovation will stop. And if you allow this to happen freely without any regulation, then the rights of the creators is at huge risk. So it's a big challenging situation that we are standing at today. Moving on to another topic, that is anti-defection law, where loyalty to the party often outweighs loyalty to the people. Let me start with the objective of this law. See, the overall purpose of this anti-defection law is if I choose to elect you as my representative, I didn't consider the candidate only. Rather, I took into consideration the political party he belonged to. And then after getting elected, you change your political party. Isn't that a betrayal of the trust and faith that I had placed in you? And the second reason is that the defections in politics are one of the biggest reasons for corruption in the Indian politics. Because if you know I can always get some people on my side by paying them huge amounts of money, then you're bringing in increased role of money, power in the election, corruption in the politics, and you are also destabilizing the government. So, this law was made to stop unethical switching of political parties and to protect stable democratic governance. Now, let's discuss the constitutional and statutory provisions involved. It was introduced by the 52nd Constitutional Amendment Act. Article 102 Clause 2 and 191 Clause 2 along with Schedule 10 provides the details. Now, both these articles they say that same thing, that a person shall be disqualified for anti-defection as per provisions of Schedule 10. This law says that there are two situations in which a person can be disqualified from the membership of the House. Now please remember, anti-defection law does not apply on outsiders. It applies on the sitting members of the Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, Legislative Assembly and Legislative Council. Now let's understand what are those two circumstances. Number one, if a person voluntarily gives up the membership of the political party from which that person was elected to the House. But this is very broad and we need to know there are different categories as well. This key term, voluntarily gives up membership, is basically, it means, for example, if I resign from my political party, then I cannot continue as a member of the party. But the Honorable Supreme Court in its multiple judgments has stated that voluntarily giving up membership does not mean only resignation, but it also means behavior or conduct of the candidate as well. For example, if there is any particular legislator who may not have resigned from his political party because there is a chance that he will be subjected to anti-defection law. But for all practical purposes, that person has joined some other political party means he did not formally resign but goes and he attends the meetings of the other political party. Then that conduct or behavior will also be taken into consideration to decide whether that particular person has voluntarily given up the membership of his political party or not. Also, another thing to be kept in mind is about independent candidates. For them, if they join a political party after election, they will also be disqualified. Also, what about a nominated member? So, if you are a nominated member, there are two possibilities. Either you already belong to a political party or you were without a party. Now, if you already were a member of a particular political party and you were nominated to the parliament or legislature, then now you cannot switch a political party. That will be considered a violation of anti-defection law. But in case you were nominated to the House without being a member of the political party, then Constitution Schedule 10 is giving you 6 months. In those 6 months, you can decide if you want to join any political party. After 6 months, it would attract the anti-defection law. But remember, that does not mean you can change multiple parties in those 6 months. You can only go and join one particular political party, and that will be considered your political party till you hold the membership of that particular legislature. Now, one of the things that you have to keep in mind is anti-defection law is being applied when I am the member of the House. Suppose I contest elections from any particular political party. I become a member of the parliament and I serve my 5-year term. After 5 years, for the next election, I have some kind of an argument with my senior leaders of the party or any other reason. For example, I am not in good terms with them. So I resign from the party. And now I contest elections from some other party. Then here, anti-defection law will not apply. Because the entire purpose of anti-defection law is not defeated. Then another issue that you have to keep in mind is decision over disqualification has to be taken by the presiding officer. But then there is a question. What if the membership of the presiding officer itself is under question? That is, whether that person itself can continue as a member or not because of anti-defection law. Who will take the decision for disqualification of the speaker? The answer is that in such a scenario, decision will be taken by a person elected by Lok Sabha in this behalf. Also, let's talk about the issue of time limit. See, Constitution does not prescribe any time limit for the speaker to take decision. So in many instances, what has happened is, despite change of allegiance of political party by the member, the speaker failed to take any action. Reason being, they belong to the same political party. So the court has time and again said that if there is an unreasonable and unexplainable delay on speaker's end to take the decision over disqualification under anti-defection law, then we can judicially review the action and we can even take action on behalf of the Speaker of the House, even though some people may call it the violation of the provisions of the Constitution under Article 121 and 211. But still, court went ahead and said we can interfere in such delayed decisions. Now let's discuss the exceptions to this law. It primarily provides two major exceptions. First is with respect to the presiding officer or the Speaker of the Lok Sabha or Legislative Assembly. So if you are elected as a Speaker of Lok Sabha and immediately after that you resign from your political party, and till the time you hold office as a Speaker of Lok Sabha, you do not join that political party or any other political party, then you shall not be subjected to anti-defection law. This particular provision has been included in order to encourage the speakers to maintain neutrality. How? By resigning from the office, you are showcasing your commitment and neutrality towards the office. Secondly, earlier there was a provision of split. Now there is a provision of merger. The provision of split was that if 1/3 of the members of any particular political party in the House resigns from that political party and forms a new political party or joins some other political party, then in that case, anti-defection law would not apply. The idea was singular or individual defection is a problem, but if group defection is taking place, then it's the choice of the entire group. But the problem was that due to this, a lot of fragmentation of political parties started to happen in the 1990s. So then, we decided on the recommendations of Venkatacharya Commission that we must raise the ceiling a bit. So we changed the concept of split into merger. Now, 2/3 of the members of any political party, if they resign or join or merge with some other political party, or even if they form a new political party, then it will not attract the provisions of anti-defection law. Now, let's get into some quick legal updates and important one-liners. Recently, Indonesia announced ban on social media for children below 16 years. The government gave the reason that it aims to protect children from online fraud, cyberbullying and mental health issues. Means it's a child protection policy. And Karnataka government is aiming to do the same. Further, the Supreme Court in a judgment has held that the right to safe travel on national highways is a part of Article 21, that is right to life. Another important update is that the union government has proposed a major expansion of the Lok Sabha, increasing its strength from 543 to 850 members. This move is linked to the implementation of women's reservation and a fresh delimitation exercise. Further, India's legal system is evolving faster than ever. On one side, Gujarat has taken a historic step by becoming the second state after Uttarakhand to move towards a uniform civil code. And on the other hand, the President's assent to the Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Amendment Act 2026 strengthens the promise of equality and dignity for every citizen. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. Stay aware, stay informed, and I'll see you all in the next video.